Hey everybody, welcome back to your free TV. It is Monday, March 16th, 2026. I am so glad to be back with you here on your free TV. I'll jump right in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. Okay, so here we are back here on Monday. It's been an incredible weekend. We have so much to be excited about and thankful for. And so we're going to jump in here. We are in the fog of war, but I'm not really referring to Iran there. I'm actually referring to our domestic policy and our ongoing government within this country that is trying to destabilize and prevent all the good that the Trump administration is trying to do. So we're going to jump in here. We have what I'm putting out there with the thumbnail, etc., is that we're looking at, again, as I've been harping on, this Trump administration going against what Peter Navarro has called the Iran terror premium, which really is the City of London Bankster elite premium on risk and terrorism with their insurance and futures, etc., that has cost close to $15 trillion in the cost of oil for sovereign nations, and of course, especially the United States, etc. So we're going to jump in here with the news, and I always start by saying thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jody, for the donation and for your wonderful comments. Indeed, both so super awesome and received. And also thanks Susie for joining monthly, and for everybody who contributes monthly and keeps the channel going. I'm so appreciative. So let's jump in. We have so much going on today, and we're going to get into the Iran stuff first, I believe, and then we dip into South America. Huge things going on there. Of course, Cuba is looking like it's about to fall. We're seeing now there is attacks going on. The people have been now, they set on fire the communist headquarters there last over the weekend, and now today we saw they've been also going against and vandalizing and going against the headquarters during blackouts that are going on there in Cuba. So that's all happening. But let's just kind of jump in here. We have several things happening today. Trump speaking for an hour during the Trump Kennedy Center board meeting, talking about everything under the sun. We'll touch in on that. And then also there was the executive order this afternoon where Trump signed the executive order on the fraud task force. This is the administration's fraud task force going after all of the billions stolen, of course, under the Biden regime's creation. And it started way back with Obama, but the creation of all these public-private partnerships that have received enormous amounts of money that has been laundered out of the country. And we have the task force with J.D. Vance being set as the head of the task force. And this was what was promised by Trump in the State of the Union address. And now it was signed into executive order today. This is looking at everything, of course, everybody's Somali fraud, Minnesota, that's huge. But we also have the homelessness fraud, the autism fraud, the daycare fraud, the body shops of the H-1B visa fraud, the trucker companies, again, with this mostly Indian fraud there as well. And we get the health homes and the addiction centers, all of this massive fraud across the country. The homelessness is huge. We have places like New York City, 81,000 per homeless person that was seemingly put out. And of course, under de Blasio back in the day, it got up to about $800 million that has disappeared. In LA, we get about $160,000 per tent put up per homeless person. And again, this gets into Newsom. We have Trump calling out Newsom today, talking about, Newsom came out in an interview over the weekend saying that he has dyslexia and all these learning disabilities. And he said, that's unfortunate, that's what he has. and that Trump said, I'm huge support for everybody with learning disabilities, but we cannot have a 2028 candidate who openly says they have learning disabilities and dyslexia and things of this nature. And so that was a great comment by Trump today. But what we're going to look into here now, which is really kind of the meat here. Let's jump in with Iran. And there is so much besides I want to get into. Of course, we're looking at DC as I'm doing this video is under tornado watch. Another just happens to happen, these weather wars where suddenly out of the blue at this time of year, very strange. We're getting very strange weather up across the southeast and the eastern seaboard, right up into the northeast with tornadoes, massive rain, super high winds, all kinds of stuff going on there. A lot of internet disruption, all of this happening. And of course, it allowed the Congress to not have to do votes today. And of course, we're still staring at that Thursday vote on the Save America Act and the rescuing of our elections before the midterms. Trump spoke about that again today in his presser at the Oval Office, saying it's simple. If you look at Dems or Republicans, we're looking at 80%, 86% average. It's like 81% Democrat, 98% Republicans want, of course, to have ID'd voting, stop the mail-in ballot fraud, stop the non-citizens voting, this kind of thing. So, of course, the same old thing, 202-224-3121 for your Senate. This is where you need to be calling. Action is paramount here. It's so paramount. And of course, 202-224-2321 for Thune directly to make sure this goes across the finish line. So let's dig in here with Iran, because what we have here is Trump is calling out and making happen the takedown, again, as I've been saying in my last few videos, but you can't say it enough. What is so disturbing to me is that all of these huge channels are just going on identity politics and oh, America first, Trump's not America first anymore. He's doing these wars, as if they don't understand that our wars are globalist wars against America. And that is what this situation is with Iran and the Straits of Hormuz. And the situation here that Peter Navarro has laid out very well in an op-ed over the weekend, I'll link it below, his Substack, even better. But he's basically talking about there has been a premium on oil in the $15 trillion range over 50 years, over this 47 years that Trump keeps saying of of this um, of this terror premium, okay, risk insurance tax that everybody's paying going through the Straits of Hormuz. This gets back to Lloyd's of London. It gets back to, we're going to look into NATO. We're going to look into why they are opposing having anything to do with this operation in Iran, that this is not a NATO war. Oh, interesting. And Trump is exposing all of them. And that's what's so glorious and so fantastic. And so what Navarro is saying is that every barrel of oil has at least a $5 to $15 tax attachment to it that has to do with this risk insurance. And it is completely convoluted. And we're going to get into why and how it's convoluted. And of course, Promethean project, their updates always so helpful. We're going to dig into that and just kind of explain to you so you understand that as Trump destroyed, that the U.S. military destroyed Carg Island infrastructure over the weekend, so important, not an escalation. This is a completion, okay, that had to do with taking out the capability for Iran to export oil, and also to be able to continue with their mining operations, to be able to put mines in the straits and to demolish that. And so let's dig in here. We get it's just very exciting. It's really quite amazing. Okay, so what do we have? We have we have Russia. We have so many things. Well, we have Trump coming out and saying no, thank you to Zelensky for your drones. He said he's the last person I would ever want to partner with is Zelensky in Ukraine and their drones. And we know those come out of the Britain, MI6, Israel, Mossad, all of this, the globalist bankster cartel Babylon elite. And he is saying no to that, but he also has said again no to when Starmer came out and said, "Oh, now we can send warships to the Straits," and that's already backtracked since NATO has come out. Trump put truth. Sorry if I'm just getting a little bit ahead of myself. Over the weekend, we saw Trump put out this truth announcing that, hey, I've invited all of the countries that are sovereign states that use the Straits of Hormuz to come and join in this effort to free the Straits of Hormuz from this tyranny and this terrorist tax and what we're having to go through to absolutely, escalate the cost of oil and this, as I said in my last video, this kind of Barbary style tribute being paid to Iran, which is just the proxy for the banksters of London. We're still seeing that. I just call him Junior, but the son of Khamenei, who supposedly, even though he's never been seen and is not around, basically is being touted as in charge and still now the new leader of Iran. We have also seen that there was the fake AI videos showing that there was this massive 250,000 people showing up to celebrate the new leader being installed. Strange reports about him being gay. I don't know what's going on there, but we do know for sure that he has huge real estate holdings through the City of London banks. That's where the IRGC operates through the City of London banks. Again, gets back to Lloyd's of London and the insurance, the risk insurance. And this has to do with oil futures and insurance futures. And that is the crux of it. That's why the EU, that's why NATO, all of these people won't get behind the Iran dismantling operation controlled by the London elite to destroy this control of the Straits of Hormuz because they are all making tons and billions of dollars on oil and insurance futures. And so let's get into this. We have, as I already said, the USS Tripoli is making it through the Straits of Malacca. They're coming over to be part of this defense of the Straits of Hormuz, and we have multiple things decides about this. So let's look into it. We've got Russia coming out and saying that Britain is blocking the peace deal with Ukraine. This is also very important. So I'll try to dial myself back. I'm kind of like, on a ranting forward situation here with this video because I'm actually really so excited about what's happening. And I just want to put out there again to everybody watching that the situation is that people aren't understanding that you cannot have peace or a renaissance in America at year 250 to end the American Revolution finally, okay, without dismantling the apparatus that is controlling energy dominance for the United States of America. As Trump said today, we produce we produce two times more oil than any nation in the country. We're going to be elevating that to 3 times as far as energy independence and dominance. And we have this situation where it's being attacked. And so let's look into it. I'm going to cite Susan Kokinda here of Promethean Project and her updates where she's talking about the dismantling of the Atlanticist architecture. Okay, that is the royals, the elites, the Cartel Babylon, as I love to call them, but the Rothschild banksters, the central banks, all of them out of the EU, okay, getting into the largest families that have continued on since World War II to then set up the USA to be a giant pawn and just a massive resource of a giant sucking, as Ron Paul says, of all of our money and treasure and resources out of the country. And this has largely been done with industry, to do with the oil sector and the energy sector. And so, what do we have? We have sovereign nations, are the ones who will become free from the imperial powers. And this gets into Russia, it gets into China, it gets into every sovereign nation. And so, as we look at Trump, basically coming out and saying, over the weekend at Joint Base Andrews, saying, "Hey, we don't have, the same objectives of Israel. We don't necessarily have those same objectives. Our objectives are freeing up the Straits of Hormuz for a sovereign nation use, where we're calling on our allies and our sovereign nations across the world to basically say the Straits of Hormuz should not have this premium tax on the world to use this globally needed passageway for oil and also energy and everything else besides." And so, what do we have from that? We have NATO coming out and saying, we will not be part of this. And Trump specifically put out on Truth Social a call for NATO to be involved, multiple nations, and almost all of them said no. And the most recent, very vehemently, from Carney up in Canada, as if as if they have anything to offer anyway. And he is, of course, just the ex head of the Bank of London, doing his job there to try to block, the Trump regime, the Trump administration from being able to create good deals with Canada, to create prosperity, and to bring freedom to Canadians, and to go into the Arctic, go into, of course, deals with Greenland, all of it. But what did we have back in August? We had in Alaska the Trump meeting with Putin, right? And this was all, oh, it's about the Ukraine, ending the Ukraine war. But what actually came out of that was that Putin was advised to load up a bunch of his tankers with LNG gas. That they obviously, probably, for entertainment purposes only, had talked about this long ago, that there was going to be this coming with this correction with the City of London and the control of energy dominance, and especially with Iran and the Straits of Hormuz. And so, at that time, you had Russia loading up their tankers with LNG, and that's what happened a few days ago, where you had Secretary Bessent, coming out and saying, we are lifting sanctions on Russia for several days so that they can basically give their energy to India and China. Okay, and so this is how this is working, and it's very interesting when you look at it all. You look at how the tariffs were shot down. I super don't support there being Lutnick's family making billions off of this tariff shutdown, but it has given way actually to this new way um, of shifting how things are happening when these different sanction liftings and things like this are happening now, with this action with Iran and the City of London. And so that happens where that energy gets to flow out of Russia, and you see this coming out where you're having Putin, and Lavrov, the foreign minister, coming out and saying, our real problem here is Britain. Okay, saying it on the international stage. We have tried over and over to create peace plans with Zelensky. It won't ever happen, no matter what we do. Now we're accepting U.S. U.S. Military, basically, backing here to be the ones who will keep the peace in Ukraine. Never before a popular or good thing. However, it came to pass that it is a good thing versus the EU or NATO, and that is why, why Putin came out and said, yes, we will do this. We will accept U.S. Military backing as the peacekeepers in Ukraine, because we certainly aren't going to do it with NATO. And so we have Trump calling out NATO in this Iran situation, saying, we have defended you forever. We have paid you our treasure, our military. We've given you everything. We pay for everything. And we're just asking you to put some of your, your mine detecting ships, like out of France, your frogmen, your might behind here, UK and Norway and the different NATO countries. We would like you to come in and help us as we try to free the Hormuz Straits from the control of Iran. But they all know that the control of the Straits isn't from Iran, it's from the City of London banksters that control all of their money, okay, and all of their central banks and all of them, okay, quite succinctly, all of them. And this is where Trump then came out and said, we don't need them. We don't need NATO, but I wanted to see if they would back us, seeing as we pay for everything, and basically showing the world that yes, NATO won't be behind us when we're asking for this, even though the U.S. Did all this stuff for Ukraine and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, the CIA, MI6, Mossad, and the City of London banksters, the Cartel Babylon, economy of sin, created the Ukraine situation in the first place. And so then we're seeing this. The whole stage of the world is seeing that NATO will not back the U.S. When the U.S. is saying we're having a threat to our economy. We're having a threat here where we cannot continue to do this, where we don't know if we'll be safe with what's going on with Iran. And there is intelligence there. Okay, I am, for entertainment purposes only, saying that I do believe that there was some plans that were to be executed that were to be hits against U.S. To do with this situation to create a larger war rather than a very planned out and executed demolition of the IRGC power and control over the country. And that is the issue, is the IRGC. And we are seeing that the Pentagon is putting out talking points that they are now actively going out specifically against the IRGC. I expect we'll be seeing a lot of IRGC being destroyed in these coming days, and we will also see the situation of the squirrely junior Khamenei, his position being probably not lasting too long. Okay, that is what it looks like. And the same with Karg Island, with the destruction of all of the infrastructure there except for the oil refinery mass base that is there, that this is a takeover without boots on the ground. However, we do know that we have 5,000 amphibious Marines that have been called up, and we're going to see what role they're going to play as Trump is showing the world that NATO will not be part of this, that our supposed greatest allies of Europe and the UK are absolutely lame ducks. They have no intent of wanting America to be prosperous or energy dominant. Quite the opposite. The billionaires, the banksters, the vanguards, the royals, and the elites don't want to lose that Iran terror premium that they get on every barrel of oil coming through the Straits of Hormuz to the tune of $15 trillion over time. And so as we keep going, let's look at this. So um, as I said, Putin coming out and saying Britain is the issue. They are the one blocking the peace with Zelensky. And we also have, very interestingly, that on the 11th, we had the UN Security Council. Basically, all the countries involved in the Board of Peace, okay, that has been set up to basically reconfigure the run of the Middle East by the City of London and also by various oligarchs and rogue players within the Middle East countries. We're seeing them at the UN Security Council coming out with a vote to condemn Iran's attacks on the Middle East countries outside of the playing field of the USA or US military bases, and they get an incredible 135 vote of yes on this in the UN Security Council, which is quite huge to condemn this of Iran. And then we get Russia and China abstaining, basically not saying, not vetoing that. And normally they would, because Iran, supposedly the big ally of Russia and China, would veto this, but they did not. And so this is very important and very incredible. This is getting off the script from the old world order, okay, where this is the way it was supposed to be. A realignment is happening. The basically getting rid of the IRGC is the goal here in Iran. And we still have Israel problems. We still have Israel going for broke. We're seeing the ground troops now going to be heading into Lebanon. We pray for that to not, you know, I'm not for it. I'm not for it. But that's what Israel is going to be doing. And so we keep continuing to pray for people and their safety across Iran and what will be happening in Lebanon. The people do not deserve to pay for these um, sins. However, there is this massive problem that if we don't take out the IRGC, we will never be free of the City of London's control over the terror premium that is stopping US American recovery of our economy and our energy outside of the control of the City of London. And it is imperative that we do pay attention to that. And so, when we look at Trump's plan here, that this is for the sovereignty of all nations across the world. That's what he said. This is for the freedom of people across the world. We're trying to help everybody. We need to get the Bank of London off our back. We need to get the City of London. We need to finish the American Revolution. That is the intent here. And so as we look at the Carg Island vessels destroyed in this bombing situation, that had to do with mine laying vessels, and very important. So there's no real physical threat outside of terrorist ongoing, threats here in the Straits of Hormuz. What there is a City of London threat, where NATO is stepping aside, where the EU, which Trump said, we don't need the EU, we don't need the UK, they offer us nothing. But I wanted to see what they were going to do. Would they come to our aid or not? Okay. And Putin, as I said already as well, coming out and saying, we know that it is Britain and intelligence that is stopping the peace plan in Ukraine. Very, very important. And we also had an interesting thing that happened last week was we had Secretary Burgum, Secretary of the Interior, over there in Saudi Arabia meeting with Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, basically signing a treaty around nuclear development in Saudi Arabia, where there's 16 nuclear power plants that the USA will be building there for nuclear power energy in Saudi Arabia, for them to also get off this train where they are beholden and only operating through this oil system. It is very interesting to look at this, that we're seeing the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and multiple nations, Bahrain, Qatar, etc., where they're all getting this off ramp from their old world order of the bankster elites controlling what they do. This is the move towards sovereignty that Trump is so pushing. And it's important for people to understand that this move towards sovereignty is saying, stop your giant, massive cartel system here that just operates out of the City of London and operates to escalate the wealth of the trillionaires of the world. Bring it back to your people, bring the energy to your people, uplift your people, and create societies that actually function as sovereign nations outside of a one world government scenario. That is what Trump is continuing to do here. And I don't understand why people don't get that. I don't understand why people think that in this country, by focusing, on energy production, on all the things that will bring our costs down without destroying the control of the City of London's cartel over our country, we will never be free. We will never be free. Neither will other nations of the world. This is like a complete realignment, right? This is the fourth turning. It is a war against, it's a World War free. It's World War free. Okay. It's World War free against Cartel Babylon, bankster elites. And I know that we're all still fearing the CBDCs, this, rollout, all of this. This is the crux, okay, where if the shifting can be taken for the good, or the rollout of the tyranny will come from the central transhumanist bankster elite psychopath Satanists. Okay, and there was a great video out by Charlie Kirk back in the day, and I got this from the Mel K show. She's fantastic, but she was talking. She put up this video by Charlie Kirk talking about how the entire American government um, system, every dollar that of our taxpayer money that is spent, should be put on blockchain, and basically that the government every dollar spent should in real time be exposed and shown that where every dollar is going. Catherine Austin Fitts, way back in the day, the incredible economist, former assistant secretary of HUD, in her Solari report.com, Solari.com, where she had basically been destroyed for creating software that every county in the United States of America would be able to use this software and show all of their constituents, all of us citizens with our county by county, 3,000 plus in this nation, would be able to see where every dollar is spent, right? Isn't that a republic? Isn't that the way it's supposed to go, right? Yeah, and then her whole life was destroyed. And we all see that over and over as our lives get destroyed as you try to go for transparency. But that's what Charlie Kirk was saying as well. He was saying transparency, right? And that's what we saw with Doge. We know there was all kind of pluses going on there with Elon Musk also wanting incredible favors to do with his companies. But this situation of make it transparent that everybody can see what is being spent in real time. And of course, that should 100% be the thing that is happening. And so that's what we're seeing. It is incredibly amazing that Trump is taking this plan forward. And I just so hope you can understand it, that what it means to take down the City of London and the Straits of Hormuz control is literally, as Trump keeps saying, this 47-year issue, where basically we've been paying out at least $15 trillion in these oil premiums as they go through in this risk insurance, and how much money is made off of oil and risk futures by these bankster elite. And so going on from there, I'm going to talk about a few things before I get off here, just a couple. It probably won't be too long tonight. I'm going to be back with a great interview tomorrow. But I did want to just let people know that we have Judge Boasberg is out there still, and he is still not, no impeachment, nothing happening. He's still operating as the head of the DC District Court, which is criminal and should be defunded immediately by our feckless Congress. They could completely dismantle the DC District Court. It's not a state. It is completely funded by our taxpayer dollars. And what Judge Boasberg has done today, let's remember he is the member of the Inn of the Courts, run out of the bar of the City of London, run out of the Pilgrim Society, a member of the council, the top elite of the deep state in our country, Judge Boasberg, um, uh, the one blocking everything to do with deportations, everything uh, uh, to do all of the Trump lawsuits, the impeachments, all of it. You can just tick them up to total deep state monster. Judge Boasberg, now U.S. Attorney DC of DC, Jeanine Pirro. she is saying that he is blocking her district court from being able to investigate, well, her U.S. Attorney's Court, from being able to investigate the Federal Reserve and multiple things, including the remodel by Jerome Powell, which we know basically doubled from 2 billion of this remodel of this compound of this elite evil institution of the Federal Reserve there in DC. $2 billion a remodel. Can you imagine? $2 billion of our taxpayer dollars. That's that. But it had escalated to almost $4 billion. And so she is investigating him and investigating Powell, but also the entire situation. Of course, looking for money laundering, as is the situation here, where you can't possibly be spending $4 billion on this, square block. This isn't Dubai. This isn't a giant high rise. In Dubai, they have high rises where literally they have elevators for cars. Okay, like they drive up their Bugattis and their whatevers, their fancy cars, and they drive them into a garage, into an elevator, and they are brought up to like the 100th floor and parked in their apartments. Okay, that's the kind of money these people have, right? That's who we're dealing with. Okay, and these are the banksters we're dealing with. And so Powell, with this doubling of the cost there of this Fed Reserve remodel, there has to be, for entertainment purposes only, some massive money disappearing somewhere in this $4 billion. But we have Judge Boasberg once again blocking this from going forward, even though they had all of it absolutely in order, ready to go. So very interesting to watch that happening there. And I also wanted to mention we have the confirmation hearing for Markwayne Mullin coming in to be the new head of DHS. This is very interesting what's going on there, Markwayne Mullins. But I do want to bring up something to do with him. I've been kind of, on the fence about him as the new DHS secretary. I think it's a bit rhino what's going on here, and I'm kind of concerned about it. But one of the things I'm concerned about with him is the BHIT Act. BHIT kind of sounds a biatch, but it's the BHIT Act, and this has to do with basically it's about mental health and the collection of mental health, basically creating a massive database of mental health um, data. And it's kind of a giant surveillance program without the goods that actually bring anything helpful to the fore. It is kind of creating a huge database on Americans, basically just accessing all of your records, all of your health records, where all of our health records, which they do anyway, but basically putting them out there to put everybody in these different social credit score style mental health, gradations and such. And I'll link it below, but basically this is where they want to do a mass collection of mental health records of the people of America without actually detailing any evidence, any data, should I say. This is a big pharma controlling this, who wants the data without giving over their data, okay? And big pharma being all the SSRIs and the MAOs and all of the drugs that these people are on that commit all of these violent crimes and shootings and etc. All of these criminals and people suffering from mental disorders largely caused, I would say, by shots and jabs, and also these drugs that kids have been on since for the last 3+ decades, that are destroying their brains and making them crazy. And so they don't want big pharma's data that has to do with detailing the violence that's been done by people on their drugs. Okay, they just want all your mental health data. And this is like, Aldous Huxley Brave New World style situation, where they want all your data. And Markwayne Mullin, the senator, who might be the new DHS secretary, very, very, very likely, is the sponsor of this bill in the Senate. And if you go to ablechild.org, they have a petition out to basically say we want the data on the violence that is connected to SSRIs. We want access to what's going on with all the psychiatrists and all the mental health professionals who are putting all these people on all these drugs and how they're related to all the violence. That is what you want to create this database for, but you won't link the two up. And this is very, very important. Otherwise, it's just mass for surveillance on all of us, protects the drug companies, keeps the drugs going, and basically just surveils you and I instead of the people, instead of the connection between the drugs and the violence and the mental health issues. And so this is what's really important to understand. So check it out at ablechild.org, the petition. I will link it below. We really need people to sign that and say, hey, we're not going to be having any. I'm against any mass data collection, period. 100% across the board with anything medical. And anybody who willingly gives themselves over to that, of course, you know, you and I completely disagree, shall we say. But this around mental health, this gets into big, big, big what's coming down the road if we let it happen to do with mass surveillance, forced drugging, forced vaccinations, forced shots, all of this. And they're letting Big Pharma off here while still wanting everybody's mental health data. So I will link it below. This is the BHIT Act, and we will talk more about it as it moves forward and see what we can do. And I also wanted to mention a couple other things we have, as I had mentioned below, with this situation with it coming to light of the EU and it's the European International. It's the communist Nazis of Europe that are in power now and have been ever since World War II, but beforehand, that we get this situation of um, them going against the United States and stealing every single bit of everything plus destruction of the United States. That's been the modus operandi, and so the European International, of course, head by Ursula von der Leyen, her family, the slavers and the Nazis. Uh, and basically, what Putin has said, he's come out also in the last few days and said, hey, the EU says they're going to cut off all buying of Russian oil and energy by 2027. So how about I just cut it off now? Let's just cut it off now. And I have to say, I agree with that sentiment. If they're going to basically go against Russia and continue to do so while also showing their cards so enormously that there obviously is no support for what President Trump is trying to do to secure the Western Hemisphere and also have um, us get out of the stranglehold of the bankster elite of the EU and Britain. That yeah, why not? Putin cut them off now, and preempt. He's basically saying, I'm going to preempt what you're already planning to do to me. And so very, very interesting as we keep watching all of this go on. And I think I will mention a couple of other things here. Um, yes, I did want to mention what's going on with Bolsonaro. He is in critical care with pneumonia and during his prison torture sentence. Bolsonaro of Brazil. We're seeing some tides turn here. Of course, the Summit of Americas to do with the US and 17 countries going after the cartels and also the financial institutions. Besant very hugely going after the financial institutions in South and Central America to stop the drug money, okay? The drug trafficking, organ trafficking, all of it, the money. Basically, that's Besant's end. And then we have, of course, the militaries of all these countries coming forward. And Brazil is losing steam in their ability to fight the Trump administration and what's going on. But Bolsonaro really needs your prayers, really needs your prayers, as he is, of course, imprisoned and now in critical care with pneumonia. So please pray for Bolsonaro. He has done such good for the Brazilian people. They are fighting back hugely and massively. It was the Biden regime, Jake Sullivan, all of them that put in Lula and funded it all and created the fake um, uh, communist takeover of Bolsonaro's populist revolution in Brazil, and there's a fighting chance there now. We pray that Bolsonaro will survive, and of course his son is also very, very popular for winning the next election as well. But we want Bolsonaro Sr. to survive, so we pray for him. And we need to understand that in places like in Paraguay, I talked about Ecuador and what's going on in Ecuador with huge military operation there to take out the cartels and their trafficking organizations there. In Paraguay, we now also have an agreement with the US military to train and take out the leftist militias in Paraguay and the cartels. And this gets into Hezbollah and how Hezbollah has infiltrated, of course, it was Venezuela, Brazil, Chile. We get right up into Colombia. All of it. It's this red, blue, green alliance of the puppets of the globalist banksters, okay, and their terrorism training units and our own rogue CIA. And on that note, of course, we have Tucker Carlson getting a very rude sort of, hey, we're going to possibly indict you for some FARA activity. Acting as a foreign agent, basically because the CIA has been reading his texts, and and he had been communicating with Iranians before the war was launched. And this is very much Israel apparatus here behind this. Their cyber security team, of course, hating on Tucker Carlson because he has been doing so much good in exposing the Israeli totalitarian state and its efforts to control American freedom of speech, information, pretty much everything, taking over all of our media, etc., and generating, I would say, if we want to look at the AI that was generated for entertainment purposes only, who generated that AI of the USS Lincoln being on fire and all of these explosions that didn't happen, to try to gin up massive more support for a more traditional boots on the ground style war in this country. My cards are on Israel, just saying, for entertainment purposes only. So, and everybody's like, oh, Tucker, he's really just CIA anyway. Well, if he was, like his dad, if he was the new CIA, I'd say, that would be great to have a new CIA where Tucker Carlson is a lead agent, right? So there's that, and there's so much else. I'm going to leave it with this. In Nebraska, the weather wars are ongoing. We're seeing what's happening with the East Coast right now. The creation of this Minnesota blizzard, right as they're having all this primary stuff, huge meetups. Mike Lindell's moving his warehouse. People think, oh, they wouldn't do that for that. Yes, they would, and they are, because Minnesota is a hotbed right now of the fraud, of the exposure. AG completely exposed Keith Ellison. Of course, Waltz, all of them, they are 100% exposed, and the primaries are going on there, and they want to disrupt all the lead up as much as they can. They want to disrupt there was like hundreds of press conferences and meetups and all of that going on this week, and now they get hit with this massive weather warfare. But let's also look in Nebraska, which has been going on for weeks now. In Nebraska, massive, massive fires. And I mentioned this, God, like a couple of weeks ago. And it's awful. And it looks like another one of these weather warfares for hire. And I believe this is a for hire program. And, it's extremely disturbing. It's disturbing on multiple levels that need to get fully understood and researched. And we need to find the deep connections here about the creation of the weather warfare, and who benefits, who's getting the money. And of course, we know who benefits. The benefits usually go to some mining or energy companies, but often it's mining right now. And that points in lots of directions. So we're going to keep digging in here. But in Nebraska, they have this huge, beautiful Sand Hills Preserve area that is just this giant, gorgeous prairie, untouched since forever. Home to incredible animals, just beautiful, beautiful place. And it's being destroyed. There's 700,000 acres that have burned. It's like 0% contained. We have corporations like Neocorp, NIO Corporation, Neocorp, that is just had a critical minerals dig that they were starting at the beginning of this month in Elk Creek area, and we're seeing that this is the same MO we keep seeing. We saw it in Wyoming, we're seeing it all over, and this is disturbing, and we need to find out, you know, where is this coming from? Is it coming out of the administration? Is it coming out of Burgum's, connection with the weather warfare apparatus? I have to ask these questions because that's very important, and we hate to see this destruction of this beautiful, beautiful land in Nebraska. And I want to, for entertainment purposes, only mention those things. So I'm going to leave it there for tonight, everyone. I hope you found something useful. I know it was a little bit squirrely there in the beginning as I was trying to bring my thoughts together. What we're seeing here is that Trump is calling the bluff of NATO. He is calling the bluff of Britain. He basically putting it out there to the world. Hey, look, we're trying to stop this Iran terror control over our energy, but our allies don't want anything to do with it. And he's a bit hitting over the mark for, I guess, not the intelligence, but the information access of America. And I wish that he would come out and very clearly say what they're doing. He's very much doing the talking points. Look, NATO's not showing up, Britain's not showing up, all of these kind of things. Look, Putin, is saying that we're trying to make a peace deal, but Zelensky won't. Britain is in the way. But this part of it that has to do, of course, with the restoration of the American, not just dollar, but economy and I would say currency, is so much of what's in play here. And so it's very hard to know what those talking points could or should be, but they could be improved. That's 100% sure. And that's where we get into Trump's administration and team that does not seem to be the ones that are able to truly ally with the American people and give us the information. And that is unfortunate. We hear that today there was the announcement that Susie Wiles has early stage breast cancer and is starting treatment and still continuing on with her role as chief of staff. And we, of course, pray for her full recovery. That is not the way we would want to be changing up the administration. As much as, we're all wondering about her. But of course, prayers for her for immediate healing in the name of Jesus. And so I'm going to leave it there. And I just want everybody to get on your prayer wave activity, in your prayer war room. This is huge what's happening, and it's happening quickly. We're at day 17 here in this Iran situation. And we continue to pray that God has his hand on it for the defeat of Cartel Babylon. It's not a pretty, just straight line, okay? It isn't. If it was, we'd be all happy and peaceful right now. This is a massive, massive, hundreds and hundreds of years to try to topple Western civilization. And of course, with the creation of America now at 250 years, Trump trying to end, finally, the American Revolution for the win. So let's stick in there. Let's understand that nothing is easy, and freedom isn't easy. We're in this against a globalist, massive, mighty, trillionaire regime. And we're fighting for our lives and our energy and resources and treasure. And so let's pray, right? Let's pray. And so we'll continue on from there. And I will, if you found something that was valuable in this video and you want to contribute, there's ways to do so below. I so appreciate it. And I so appreciate you signing up as a subscriber, sharing, liking, hugely shadow banned. And it's just amazing that still at this time that I'm still so shadow banned after getting back up. I guess that's in a way a compliment, but it is not helpful for running the channel when there needs to be resources, and those come on this awful medium that we're attached to of these platforms with, of course, all of those things. So I will also let everybody know that I am sponsored by c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. This is a great, great product that cleans the garbage out of your mitochondria, having to do with everything that is assaulting us, from whether it's the jabs, the glyphosate, the chemtrails, basically everything that alters our cellular health for the bad. It helps to clean up your cells and basically get your mitochondria free of disruption that is, of course, shifting our genetic structure, as they have been trying to do with the interbody nano network of things, trying to stop that. And people use it for the big C, hugely in protocols, buying it by the case, CNS, central nervous system, degenerative diseases, all of this, because all of health comes from mitochondrial and cellular health. So it goes in, it cleans out the garbage with your master hormones. It is a fantastic, incredible product, the most pure. They call it ESS 60 because it's so pure, it's beyond carbon 60. It is an amazing product. c60evo.com/YAFTV, code YAFTV for 10% off. And anybody who donates to the channel gets automatically 15% off, a new email and code sent to you. So I so thank you for your support of the channel. And just understand that we are free. We have the most freedom pretty much of anywhere in the world. We have the ability to change what's going on in the 2026 elections by our local actions. Okay, go to Precinct Project, Precinct Project USA, I believe. No, the precinctproject.us, the precinctproject.us. Get involved. We're now in here, Central March, huge here now for the 2026 elections, the primaries, all of it needs you to get involved. And that's the way you kind of appreciate the fact that you live in the freest nation in the world and have the most freedoms of anywhere in the world right now. This is the place. This is the US. You can complain all you want about what we don't have, but that's what we do have if we take action and protect it. So I'll see you tomorrow. We have a great interview tomorrow. You're going to love it. And so I'll be back with you then. You are free.